राम हरे राम राम हरे राम हरे हरे राम हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम हरे हरे राम हरे राम राम हरे राम हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे राम हरे राम हरे राम हरे राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण
So we'll start with our prayers. Anybody would like to sing today? The screen. Okay. Okay, if nobody wants to try, then I'll go ahead and sing today, and then we'll read the translations. आत्यन्तिकव्याधिहरं जनानां चिकित्सकं वेदविदो वदन्ति संसारतापत्रयनाशबीजं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति ताताज्ञया गच्छति रामचन्द्रे स लक्ष्मणेरन्यचये स सीते चक्रन्दरामस्य निजजनेत्री गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति एकाकिनी दण्डककनान्तात् सानीयमाना दशकान्धरेण सीता तदा क्रोशदनन्यनाथ गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति रामाद्वियुक्ता जनकात्मजा सा विचिन्तयन्ती हृदि रामरूपम् रुरोदसीता रघुनाथ पाहि गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति प्रसीद विष्णो रघुवंशनाथ सुरासुराणां सुखदुःखहेतु रुरोदसीता तु समुद्रमध्ये गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति अन्तर्जले ग्राहगृहीतपादो विसृष्टविक्लिष्टसमस्तबन्धुः तदा गजेन्द्रो नितरां जगादा गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति हंसाध्वजसङ्खयुतो ददर्श पुत्रं कटाहे प्रपतन्तमेनं पुण्यानि नामानि हरे जपन्तं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति दुर्वाससो वाक्यमुपेत्य कृष्णा सा चाब्रवीत्काननवासिनीशम् अन्तः प्रविष्टं मनसा जुहाव गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति ध्येयः सदा योगिभिरप्रमेयः चिन्ताहरश्चिन्तितपारिजातः कस्तूरिकाकल्पितनीलवर्णो गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति संसारे कूपे पतितोऽगाधे मोहान्तपूर्णे विषयाभिताप्ते करावलम्बं मम देहि विष्णु गोविन्द दामोदरमाधवेति गोविन्द दामोदरमाधवेति गोविन्द दामोदरमाधवेति हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री गोविंद दामोदर स्तोत्रम की जय। श्रीला बिल्वमंगल ठाकुर की जय। जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओके,
I can read, Prabhuji. The knowers of the Vedas say that this is the cure-all of the worst diseases of mankind, and that this is the seed of the destruction of the threefold miseries of material existence, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Upon Ramchandra's going into the forest due to his father's order, along with Lakshmana and Sita, his mother cried, O Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Left there alone, Sita was carried out of the forest by the 10-headed Ravana. At that time, accepting no other lord, Sita cried, O Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Separated from Ram, the daughter of King Janak was completely anxious, and with the form of Ram within her heart, she cried, O Raghunath, protect me, O Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. O Lord Vishnu, be gracious, Lord of the Raghu clan, cause of the happiness and distress of gods and demons alike. O Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Thus Sita cried as she was being carried over the middle of the ocean. Caught by his foot and pulled into the water, Gajendra, his friends all harassed and frightened away, then called out incessantly, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Along with his priest, Sankayud, King Hamsadhwaj saw his son Sudanva falling into a vat, but the boy was chanting the transcendental names of Hari, Govinda, Damodar, and Madhava. Accepting Durvasa Muni's request that she feed his many disciples, though she hadn't the means, Draupadi mentally called out to the Lord from within her heart, the Lord of forest dwellers. She said, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. He is always meditated upon by the yogis as being inscrutable. He is the remover of all anxieties and is a desire tree of all that is desired. His bluish complexion is as attractive as Kasturika. Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. I am fallen into the deep dark well of material life, which is full of illusion and blind ignorance, and I am tormented by sensual existence. O my Lord, Vishnu, Govinda, Damodar, Madhava, please grant me your supporting hand to uplift me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shri Mataji. Very nice. Okay, so you can always chant these prayers and remember the Lord by chanting his holy names. So Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. He's a Yadava, he's also our Saketi, as the song goes. Govinda, Damodar, Madhava. Hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Saketi. Okay, so we'll continue with Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Yesterday we are currently reading from chapter 22. Swamiji invites the hippies. He's in San Francisco, California, and he has performed his first Sadhu Sangha Kirtan festival in the ballroom, just like we had in Florida recently. So, and we saw how Prabhupada's mainly his main goal was to distribute the chanting of the holy name, and like his disciples were remembering after, right, Janaki and Hayagriva Prabhu, when they were remembering that Prabhupada loved it to see people dancing and chanting the holy names, even though they were all mostly hippies and people who were not following any of the regulative principles. But that is the mood of a pure Vaishnava. He wants to go out and he wants to make them fortunate by giving them the holy names. Right? The fortune that we talk about, really the only wealth that we carry in our lives is the names that we have accumulated in our heart. The more and more that we chant, it's like filling our heart, the treasure of our heart, with this gem. And that is the only thing that carries with us from one birth to another birth. And for people who have that fortune, they are considered fortunate to actually accept this gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given to this world. Even though it is free, not everybody accepts it because they are not fortunate, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. And that fortunate comes from the fortune that they have accumulated. So since not many have accumulated that, they are not fortunate. But a pure devotee, by his compassion and mercy, he can make everybody fortunate. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to do. And even when no sannyasi would go out of Vrindavan at this age, he travels all the way. And he is trying to make everybody fortunate by giving them these holy names through his purity. And as he was going to the thing yesterday, he was remembering, he was saying that we should open more and more centers. Right? And at least here in Cincinnati, we are glad that we are following Srila Prabhupada's instructions that we are opening more and more centers. We don't have a temple yet. But one day by his mercy we may have, but at least we have 3 centers. So that was nice. And so now we remember last we were reading about Joanne and Janaki's sister, Janaki Mataji's sister, who had helped in the wedding feast. So we'll continue from there, that she is remembering. And how she is remembering Srila Prabhupada's association for that one day when she was asked to make the kachoris. And then she had gone back to San Francisco and not pursued Krishna consciousness further. So we'll continue from here. A few months later, Mukunda and Janaki had driven to the west coast with plans of going soon to India, but had changed their plans when Mukunda had received a letter from Swamiji asking him to try to start a Krishna conscious temple in California. Mukunda had talked about Swamiji to Joanne and other friends, and he had found that a lot of young people were interested. Joanne had then accompanied Mukunda, Janaki, and a boy named Roger Siegel to the mountains in Oregon, where they had visited their mutual friends Sam and Marjorie, who had been living in a forest lookout tower. Mukunda had explained what he had known of Krishna consciousness, and the 6 of them had begun chanting Hare Krishna together. They had been especially interested in Swamiji's teachings about elevating consciousness without drugs. Mukunda had, and I have some messages here. Let me just clear these. Okay. Mukunda had talked excitedly about Swamiji's having asked him to start a temple in California, and soon he and his wife Janaki, Sam and his girlfriend Marjorie, and Roger and Joanne, now intimate friends, had moved to an apartment in San Francisco to find a storefront and set the stage for Swamiji. After Swamiji's arrival, Joanne had begun attending the temple kirtans. She felt drawn to Swamiji and the chanting, and she especially liked the informal visiting hours. Swamiji would sit in his rocking chair with his hand in his bead bag, chanting the holy names, and Joanne would sit fascinated, watching his fingers moving within the bag. One day during Swamiji's visiting hours, while Swamiji was sitting in his rocking chair and Joanne and others were sitting at his feet, Janaki's cat crept in through the hallway door and began slowly coming down the hallway. The cat came closer and slowly meandered right in front of Swamiji's feet. It sat down, looking up intently at Swamiji, and began to meow. None of the devotees knew what to expect. Swamiji began gently stroking the back of the cat with his foot, saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Are you feeding him prasadam milk? Joanne, I was touched by Swamiji's activities and his kindness, even to cats, and I longed for more association with him. Joanne came to understand that serving Swamiji was a serious matter, but she didn't want to jump into initiation until she was 100% sure about it. Sometimes she would cry in ecstasy, and sometimes she would fall asleep during Swamiji's lecture. So she remained hesitant and skeptical, wondering, how can I actually apply Swamiji's teachings to my life? One evening, Swamiji asked her, when are you going to be initiated? Joanne said that she didn't know, but that she relished reading his books and chanting Hare Krishna. She said that because she was attracted to the mountains and to elevated spiritual consciousness, she wanted to travel to Tibet. Swamiji, sitting in his rock chair, looked down at Joanne as she sat at his feet. She felt he was looking right through her. I can take you to a higher place than Tibet, he said. Just see. Joanne suddenly felt that Swamiji knew everything about her, and she understood. Oh, I have to see through his eyes what Krishna consciousness is. He was promising that he would take her to some very elevated realm, but she would have to see it. It was then that Joanne decided to become Swamiji's disciple. When she told her boyfriend Roger, he was astounded. He and Joanne had been coming to the Kirtanas and lectures together, but he still had doubts. Maybe it would be good for him and Joanne to get married, but not initiated. Joanne, however, was more determined. She explained to Roger that Swamiji hadn't come just to perform marriages. You had to get initiated first. Roger Siegel had grown up in New York. He was following a Hatha Yoga guru, had experimented with psychedelic chemicals, and had traveled in the deep south as a civil rights activist, taking part in freedom marches with the blacks. Large bodied, sociable, and outgoing, he had lots of friends in San Francisco. At the airport, in a merry mood with the Haight Ashbury crowd, he had seen Swamiji for the first time and been especially struck by Swamiji's regal bearing and absence of self consciousness. The concept of reincarnation had always intrigued him, but after attending some of Swamiji's lectures and hearing him explain transmigration of the soul, he felt he had found someone who definitely knew the answer to any question about life after death. One night, after attending the program at the temple, Roger returned to his apartment and sat down on the fire escape to meditate on what Swamiji had said. The world is false, he had said. But it feels real to me, Roger thought. If I pinch my arm, I feel pain. So, how is that illusion? This fire escape is real, otherwise, I would be falling in space. The space is real, isn't it? Roger decided he didn't understand what Swamiji meant by illusion. If I try to walk through the wall, he thought, would that be real or not? Maybe the wall's reality is just in my mind. To test the illusion, he went inside his apartment, concentrated his mind, and walked against the wall. Smack! He sat down again and thought, what does Swamiji mean when he says that the world is illusion? He decided he should ask at the next meeting. He did, and Srila Prabhupada told him that actually the world is real because it was created by God, the supreme reality. But it is unreal in the sense that everything material is temporary. When a person takes the temporary world to be permanent, and all in all, he is an illusion. Only the spiritual world, Swamiji explained, is eternal and therefore real. Roger was satisfied by Swamiji's answer, but he had other difficulties. He thought Swamiji too conservative. When Swamiji said that people's dogs must be kept outside the temple, Roger didn't like it. Many visitors brought pet dogs with them to the temple, and now there was a hitching post in front of the building just to accommodate the pets on leashes. But Swamiji wouldn't allow any pets inside. This philosophy is for humans, he said. A cat or dog cannot understand it. Although, if he hears the chanting of Hare Krishna, he can receive a higher birth in the future. Roger also had other points of contention with what he considered Swamiji's conservative philosophy. Swamiji repeatedly spoke against uncontrolled habits like smoking, but Roger couldn't imagine giving up such things. And the instructions about restricting sex life especially bothered him. Yet, despite his not following very strictly, Roger felt himself developing a love for Swamiji and Krishna. He sensed that Swamiji had much to teach him and that Swamiji was doing it in a certain way and a certain order. Roger knew that Swamiji saw him as a baby in spiritual life who had to be spoon fed. He knew he had to become submissive and accept whatever Swamiji gave him. Sam Spearstra, tall and slender with curly reddish gold hair, was athletic. He had trained as an Olympic skier, yet artistic. He was a writer and wood sculptor. He had graduated from Reed College in Oregon and gone on as a Fulbright scholar to a small college in Switzerland, where he had obtained an MA in philosophy. He was popular as Mukunda saw him, the epitome of the rugged individualist. When Mukunda had visited Sam at his mountain lookout tower and told him about Swamiji and Krishna consciousness, Sam had been intrigued by the new ideas. Sam's life had nearly reached a dead end, but he had seen hope in what Mukunda and Janki had been saying about Swamiji. After spending only a few days with Mukunda, Sam had been eager to help him establish a temple of Krishna consciousness in San Francisco. Sam was the one who knew the local rock stars and had persuaded them to appear at the Avalon with Swami Bhaktivedanta, whom he had never met. Sam had seen Swamiji for the first time when Swamiji had arrived at the San Francisco airport, and Sam had later insisted that he had seen a flash of light come from Swamiji's body. At first, Sam had been afraid to say anything, nor had he known what to say. Prabhupada was completely new to him and seemed so elevated. But the day after the program at the Avalon, when Mukunda told Prabhupada that Sam had arranged the dance, Prabhupada sent for him to find out how much money they had made. Sitting across from Prabhupada, who sat behind a small desk, Sam informed him that they had made about $1,500 profit. Well then, Srila Prabhupada said, you will be the treasurer. Then Srila Prabhupada asked him, what is your idea of God? God is one, Sam replied. Prabhupada asked, what is the purpose of worshipping God? Sam replied, to become one with God. No, Prabhupada said, you cannot become one with God. God and you are always two different individuals, but you can become one in interest with Him. And then he told Sam about Krishna. After they talked, Prabhupada said, you can come up every day and I will teach you how to do books. So Sam began meeting with Prabhupada for half an hour a day to learn bookkeeping. Sam, I had never been very good at keeping books and I really didn't want to do it, but it was a good excuse to come and see Swamiji every day. He would chew me out when I would spend too much money or when I couldn't balance the books properly. I really loved the idea that he was so practical that he knew bookkeeping. He became so much more of a friend from the beginning rather than some idealized person from another sphere of life. I took almost all my practical questions to him. I learned to answer things for myself based on the way Swamiji always answered day to day problems. And the first thing he made me do was to get married to my girlfriend. Mukunda and his wife Janaki, whose apartment was just down the hall from Srila Prabhupada's, were the only couple Srila Prabhupada had already initiated and married. Mukunda, who often wore his strand of large red japa beads in two loose loops around his neck, had grown long hair and a short, thick black beard since coming to San Francisco. He had entered the summer of love spirit of Haight Ashbury and was acquainted with many of the popular figures. Although occasionally earning money as a musician, he spent most of his time promoting Prabhupada's mission, especially by meeting people to arrange gala programs like the one at the Avalon. He was a leader in bringing people to assist Prabhupada, yet he had no permanent sense of commitment. He was helping because it was fun. Having little desire to be different from his many San Francisco friends, he did not strictly follow Prabhupada's principles for regulated spiritual life. In his exchanges with Srila Prabhupada, Mukunda liked to assume a posture of fraternal camaraderie rather than one of the menial servitude, and Srila Prabhupada reciprocated. Sometimes, however, Prabhupada would assert himself as the teacher. Once, when Prabhupada walked into Mukunda's apartment, he noticed a poster on the wall showing a matador with a cape and a sword going after a bull. This is a horrible picture, Srila Prabhupada exclaimed, his face showing displeasure. Mukunda looked at the poster, realizing for the first time what it meant. Yes, it is horrible, he said, and tore it off the wall. Srila Prabhupada was eager to have someone play the mridanga properly during the kirtanas, and Mukunda, a musician, was a likely candidate. Mukunda, the day the drum came, I asked Swamiji if I could learn, and he said yes. I asked him when, and he said, when do you want? Now? I asked. He said, yes. I was a little surprised to get such a quick appointment, but I brought the drum to his room, and he began to show me the basic beat. First, there was Gita, Gita, Ta, Gita, Ta, and then one slightly more complicated beat. Gita, Ta, Gita, Ta, Gita, Ta, Gita. As I began to play the beat, I kept speeding it up, and he kept telling me to slow down. He spent a lot of time just showing me how to strike the heads of the drum. Then I finally began to get it a little, but he had to keep admonishing me to slow down and pronounce the syllables as I hit the drum. Gi tata. The syllables, he said, and the drum should sound the same. I should make it sound like that and always pronounce them. I was determined and played very slowly for a long, long time. I was concentrating with great intensity. Then suddenly I was aware of Swamiji standing motionless beside me. I didn't know how long he was going to stand there without saying anything, and I became a little uncomfortable, but I continued playing. When I got up, the courage to look up and see his face, to my surprise, he was moving his head back and forth in an affirming way, with his eyes closed. He seemed to be enjoying the lesson. This came as a complete surprise to me. Although I had taken music lessons before and had spent many years taking piano lessons, I can never remember an instance when the teacher seemed to actually enjoy my playing. I felt very wonderful to see that here was a teacher who was so perfect, who enjoyed what he was teaching so much, not because it was his personal teaching or his personal method, but because he was witnessing Krishna's energy pass through him to a conditioned soul like myself, and he was getting great pleasure out of it. I had a deeper realization that Swamiji was a real teacher, although I had no idea what a spiritual master really was. To Mukunda's wife, Janaki, Krishna consciousness meant dealing in a personal way with Swamiji. As long as he was around, she was all right. She enjoyed asking him questions, serving him, and learning from him how to cook. She didn't care much for studying the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, but she quickly developed an intense attraction for him, Janaki. There were a group of us sitting around in Swamiji's apartment, and I asked him if he had any children. He looked at me as if I had said something strange, and he said, "You are not my child?" I said, "Well, yes." And he said, "Are not all these my children?" And his answer was so quick that I never doubted that he seriously meant what he said. For several hours each morning, Prabhupada showed Janaki, Joanna, and others how to cook. But one day in the kitchen, he noticed a kind of berry he had never tasted, and he asked Janaki what they were. She told him strawberries. He immediately popped one into his mouth, saying, "That's very tasty." And he proceeded to eat another and another, exclaiming, "Very tasty." One time, Janaki was making whipped cream when Prabhupada came into the kitchen and asked, "What is that?" She replied, "It's whipped cream." "What is whipped cream?" he asked. "It is cream," she replied, "but when you beat it, it fluffs up into a more solid form." Although always adamant about kitchen rules, one of the most important being that no one could eat in the kitchen, Srila Prabhupada immediately dipped his finger into the whipped cream and tasted it. "This is yogurt," he said. In a light-hearted, reprimanding way that was her pleasure, Janaki replied, "No, Swamiji, it is whipped cream." Srila Prabhupada corrected her, "No, it is yogurt." And again he put his finger into it and tasted it, saying, "Oh, it tastes very nice." "Swamiji," Janaki accused him, "you are eating in the kitchen." Srila Prabhupada merely smiled and shook his head back and forth, saying, "That is all right." Janaki, "One time I told him, 'Swamiji, I had the most exciting dream. We were all on a planet of our very own, and everybody from Earth had come there. They had all become pure devotees, and they were all chanting. You were sitting on a very special chair high off the ground, and the whole earth was clapping and chanting Hare Krishna.'" Swamiji smiled and said, "Oh, that's such a lovely dream." Okay, I think we'll pause here. We'll let them be in the spiritual world, in the dream, back in the spiritual sky. And we'll continue further tomorrow. But yeah, we can take any reflections, any thoughts, comments from today's reading. Anybody would like to share anything? It's nice.
Good thing is that Prabhuji Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, reflection we are asking, right? Or am I audible?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Naren Prabhu, you're audible. Madanatul Prabhu, you're not audible. We cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
I think Naren Prabhu, you can go ahead. I think it's problem with his network, but he can hear you.
Oh, okay, fine. So no need to read anymore, right? Just
yes,
reflect.
yes, just
Okay.
reflections.
Yeah, the illusion, Srila Prabhupada said, right? We think like illusion is something different or like in a bad perspective always see. But illusion is nothing but the material energy of the God only. But it is not real, but it is real, but temporary. That is the good thing that was explained by Prabhupada. So, I mean, whenever we are in the illusion world, we should not get attached with anything which are temporary. So that's what I learned today. good point here.
True. That is what Mayavadis say, right? Everything is Maya, everything is.
Yeah.
Krishna, am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying about how Prabhupada is mentioning about like Mayavadis generally say, right? Everything is Maya. I am God, you are God, we are all God, right? And everything in this world is just illusion. But Prabhupada is correcting that. He's saying, no, it is not illusion. The world is real because this world has been created by the Lord. So God is real, the world is real, right? But it's just that it is temporary. Nothing, it will not exist. Like yesterday when we were reading, and when Prabhupada was walking around the beach, he was looking at the sky and the sea, right? In one sense, it is all the Virat Roop of the Lord, right? But when Kirtananda Swami and Agriva, they were, or was it, they were walking around the beach and they said, Prabhupada said, it is great and it is tranquil. The sea, because it is great, it is tranquil, it is very peaceful. But when they said it is eternal, he said, no, it is nothing in this material world is eternal, right? So even the ocean and the sky, everything, and one day it will all get annihilated, like we read from our Shastras. So in that sense, yes, it is not. That is what is illusion. But yeah, Prabhupada is slowly clearing all the illusions, and like we see how he was answering practical questions, right? Everybody was able to talk to him as a friend, even though he was very elevated and advanced devotee, yet he came down to their level and he established the relationship, just like Krishna establishes relationship in whatever mood you want to establish with him, right? If you want Krishna to be your friend, he will be your friend. If you want him to be your father, he will be your father. If you want him to be your lover, he'll be your lover, right? So whatever mood, you can establish your relationship with the Lord. Similarly here, these early disciples, some of them were having that personal exchange with Srila Prabhupada more as a friend, like Mukunda Prabhu was trying to do, or Janaki, she was trying to be more like as a child of Srila Prabhupada, right? So he was exchanging or reciprocating with them in the mood that they wanted to have. But yeah, once in a while he will exert his authority as a teacher when they are wrong in their understanding, and he will correct them. And yeah, all these small things that he taught them: cooking, he taught them music, he taught them how to chant, how to dance, how everything. It's like practical, skills, life skills. So it was not just only philosophy, but how to truly mold your life in day-to-day practical terms in Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Prabhu. Naren Prabhu.
Yeah, yes, bro. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else would like to share anything? Chanting. Would like to say? What, Prabhu? Anybody else? Anything? Any other thoughts, reflections before we wrap up? Shriya Mataji, anything?
Yes, Prabhuji, I had not a reflection, but a question.
Yes.
So, how Prabhupada says that, he was concerned about the cat, that, he was asking that whether you feed her the prasada milk. And then later he says that, the pets shouldn't be inside the temple because they don't have the consciousness, but when they hear the chanting, they will attain the higher birth. So, how can we understand that?
Yeah, because there is, anything that we do, especially, there should be, one of the principles is of cleanliness. And again, as animals, they don't have that elevated consciousness to know what is right, what is wrong, right? So there may be like they may shed their hairs, they may pass urine or stool right inside the temple, and then the place of worship becomes the sacred place of worship becomes unsanctified, right? Dirty. So in that mood, of course, Prabhupada says, like they can hear the chanting, right? So they were able to tie them outside. But yeah, inside the temple, inside the sacred place where you perform worship, yes, and I think that is what he was prohibiting. And of course, he was not constructing this by his own whims and imagination, right? This is what the Shastras say, right? So he was just guiding them to that principle that yes, these living entities, they can, when we chant, just like the sound vibrations, like you cannot hear sound vibrations in space, right? In vacuum, but here you can. And that is the thing Prabhupada was saying, that we should be able to chant loudly, so that way they can hear sound vibrations, and that itself will be sufficient for them to get purified. But the principle of shaucham, we say, there should be both external and internal cleanliness. Just as we as human beings also, as sadhakas, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said there is no rules and regulations for chanting the holy names, right? We can chant anytime, any place, anywhere. But still, when we are in the temple, or the ideal is, the recommendation is that when we do any yajna, when we do any sacred thing, we take a bath and then we chant. So there is a principle of cleanliness, both externally and internally in our minds, what we are thinking, what we are meditating on, right? So we have to absorb our mind into the mantra, and that is when we will actually be able to realize the effectiveness, slowly. Like we have to become more and more effective. How do we develop more attention into our chanting? So long answer to your question, but yeah, cleanliness is very, very important, both external and internal cleanliness, of our mind and our body. So for animals, of course, that is not possible, right? Even with how much of a training we may give them, still, it is not practical to expect that they will have the same level of cleanliness as human beings. So in that mood, he was trying to get them to that understanding that, yeah, we can. For them, the best thing is just if we are chanting loudly, doing Sankirtan, they will be blessed by the Lord. So that much is sufficient for them. They don't have to be brought inside the temples.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like just, they're hearing the sound vibration by being outside, they can attain the higher birth. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, thank you so much. So we'll wrap it up here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit ki jai. Nitai Gaur. Hari Hari
Hare
Bol.
Gaur.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Cool.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.